Let's get this C6 transmission back together. All right, we're back at the shop. I've got the valve body sitting over beside me, and the one thing I wanted to try to do before we put the valve body on is replace these shaft seals for the shifter and the kickdown. And I took the top nut off, and what I was afraid of is happening. We don't have enough room to get this shaft out, but maybe if we undo the larger one, I think it goes that way, then the hole will be large enough that we can get this out. I'm not gonna disassemble the whole thing. If we can't do it, we're gonna just slap it back together. It was not leaking to my knowledge there, but if we can do it and we're right here, we're gonna do it, because I don't wanna have to come back and do it for some reason. So let me yeah, the kick down is right here. Well, I think that one's the kick down. And it's, yeah, that one's the kick down, this one's the shifter. Yeah, so that one just has a nut on it, comes off, and then of course you've got a big nut right here that is this part of the shaft that is hollow, that this shaft goes through. It's kind of a neat design. And so you've got one hole in the transmission for two, levers, which is, I like that design. So let me get this nut off, and we'll see if we can get the shaft there. Maybe I should check my seals real quick, because we should have two seals. I'm guessing we've got one for maybe right there, and then a larger one for there. We should check our parts before we tear this down, because if we only have the smaller one for some reason, there's the larger one. That one should be the one that goes right there. And let's make sure we have the smaller one. And that one, either, that kind of looks like an O-ring-ish to me. That one goes either there, or maybe it goes on the inside. I don't know. I think it goes right here. So I don't know. Let's we've got, it looks like we have what we need. So let's continue on. I think I can get it apart. So like I said, I think once we undo this nut, as long as we can get a I can't get a socket on it right here with this thing still in it, but if I can get a I don't know, I might have to sacrifice a wrench and make kind of a line wrench. I'll see what kind of line wrenches they have, because I'm not sure I can get a boxed in here. And I was not about to pull this much out of the transmission. Like I said, if we can't get this far into it, we may, if that's the seal, that smaller seal, we may just pop that one out and replace it, and whatever, call it good, I guess. Let me see. All right, I was overcomplicating things, so I got to just snake the boxed in up around this. Just played that little game, we don't try not to touch the sides, whatever that game is. Kind of did that and snuck it up around this shaft and got it on here. So, and then I just put vice grips on there so I could hold kind of a backup so I wasn't trying to bind the linkage or anything, just cranking on it, with it bottomed out or something. So that worked out. So we are getting this disconnected. We only get about one click of the wrench, but I'll take it. Works for me. I did take a few pictures of how the linkage was laid out, you know, before I started taking this apart, you know, because I think the only way you could get it would be 180 off, maybe. So maybe, yeah, 180 off. So I think that's the only possibility you could do to get this messed up. But we've got some pictures to reference when we go back together, just in case we need it. But I think it'll be pretty self-explanatory, I guess. I think we can. And now I gotta do this one-handed because I got the camera. Yeah, basically something kind of like that. All right, that's off. That's off. So I think that stuff can stay there. It looks like we do not have a seal there. So our seal is going to be on this upper side of it. And that came out. And just like I was thinking, this now comes out. Awesome. So we're going to pop that seal out, replace it, and then looking down here, it does look like the seal is that outside, which one to me looks like an O-ring on this one, but maybe that's a seal. We'll throw our shaft in here because it looked like to me there wasn't much sticking out. You know, there's that flat on here, and it looked like to me the seal was riding on the flat. See? We'll just pop the seal out. I guess it's not riding on the flat part of it, but let's see. And that is just an O-ring. That is all that is. So we've got a seal to replace it, but as you see, there's not much there as far as how much sticks out. So we're going to need to look at our seal and figure out which direction we need to put it, or if we just put an O-ring back. This one's broke. Oh, that's a flat washer there. This one's still fairly pliable. I mean, we could put it back, but I think because this one we could get to if we needed to replace it. Anyway, I'm gonna think on this real quick and decide what I want to do, but for sure we'll pop that one out and replace it. All right, so we got that one in, and then this one doesn't fit. So I think did this one go in this box? I think this one went in this box. I don't know. I don't remember which box it went in because I've had them both out. Y'all tell me. I guess I can rewind the video and look, but we're gonna set that aside. I think I might have ordered these parts probably 6 months ago. And I might have ordered a speedometer shaft seal, and that might be what that other one is. So I'll have to pull that out. I've got it bagged up and see. But I think what we're gonna do, I'm gonna go through my O-ring stash and see if I've got this O-ring, and if I do, we're gonna replace it. If not, we'll run that one again. Like I said, it's still pliable. I would like to replace it, and so we're gonna see. That old seal was pretty brittle, so I'm glad we replaced it. It popped apart pretty easy when I was starting to pry it apart, and so I think it was sealing, but I don't think it was long for this world. Did notice this one has a little bit more of a shoulder on it, and so our new one inset just a little bit more. It was not quite as thick, but it's not really going to matter. It'll just ride further down on here. Should be fine. I guess I could have stopped when it was flush, but flush with the outside, but it's fine. All right, let me go through my O-ring stash and see what we got. All right, so here's what we got. I've got a bunch of different sets of O-rings. This is, I think, a Harbor Freight set, and that's just well, I thought it was AC O-rings, but they are not. They're green, but they're not AC. That was from Amazon. They're just standard O-rings. And then I've got 2 miscellaneous assortments of AC stuff, and then this set, which I bought from a traveling tool sale over 20 years ago. Still good pliable O-rings, but they are pretty old. So all that to say, these 2 sets, I didn't have anything close. And then I found these that were close, and these, and this guy was in here. And so what we've got, I got the caliper out, and these are a little bit thin, so they're not going to work. This one seems like the perfect size, so I think we're going to go with that one. I don't know if it's better than our original one. I mean, I don't know, but we're gonna run it, and if it leaks, we'll, we can. There it is. So we'll run it. Like I said, if it leaks, it's easy to replace. Just, take that nut off and pop the linkage off, pop that O-ring out, and slip a new one in. So I think that I feel better about doing that than reusing the old one. We're gonna trust this 20-year-old, 20-plus-year-old made in China, cheap traveling tool sale O-ring. I'm gonna see the price on it. Is it $8.99? I think $8.99, $6.99. I can't even remember the name of that. Homier, Homier. It's home. I can't believe I remember that. Got something I'll show you from that. So back when that tool sale was coming around, I didn't have. This is kind of my miscellaneous drawer of metric wrenches. I've got a set I keep on a wrench holder, full set, and then this is kind of the, I don't know, miscellaneous go-tos or whatever. So I didn't have really any metric wrenches then. This is before we ever had a Harbor Freight. This is, I say 20 years ago. I bet it was 30 years ago. Just thinking through, because I was a pretty young kid, and so probably 30 years ago is when that tool sale was going around, and that's about how old those O-rings are. I bought a set of metric wrenches there just because I didn't have them. I didn't have a set, and this is it. And these are probably the cheapest quality wrenches you'll ever run across. And here's another one. See if I've got any of the smaller. Here's a smaller one. You can see when you get to the smaller sizes, they're pretty cheap and thin, but they make good. Look at the quality of that off-centered hole that's in there. They make pretty good sacrificial wrenches though. If you need to cut one or bend one, they bend super easy. Cummins. It was Homier was the tool sale. Let's see. Here's another one. Look at that quality. Like I said, they're 30 years old, but I've held on to them. And then also, let's see, they had a lot of clone stuff, like copies of stuff. So I bought, this stuff was cheap, or at least, it was probably like Harbor Freight prices, but it was before Harbor Freight. So, or at least before I ever had a Harbor Freight or ever had been to one. So when that tool sale came around, man, I was excited because I could get, bang for my buck. But I bought this impact, and it's held up. I mean, for a cheap, made in China impact, and it was powerful, and it's lasted 30 years, I guess. But it soon got replaced. I used it for quite a while, and then it got replaced by this Ingersoll Rand that I picked up at a flea market, and then this guy got replaced by a garage sale Ingersoll Rand that I keep in my tool cart. I'll show you that one in just a second. I know we're going on a rabbit trail here. The only thing that did happen to this one was the trigger broke. The plastic trigger broke. And so what I did is, if you look, these are pretty much the same gun. This one's got, this here, but they're pretty much the same. And so I ordered a trigger for this guy, and what do you know? Fit right in. So it's got a replacement Ingersoll Rand trigger. I say Ingersoll Rand, it's an aftermarket trigger for this gun installed over here, and got that one working again. So let me show you the garage sale one I found. So I picked this guy up at a garage sale, and it's got the composite body, so it's quite a bit lighter, and this is my go-to impact. Only complaint is the buttons are pretty worn on it, so you got to be kind of careful. You don't push that too fast because the buttons will pop out. So I need to order a set. You can get these, replacements. I need to order a set and, replace it. This is my go-to now. All right, that was a pretty big side tangent, rabbit trail of showing you tools. Let me put all these O-rings up, and I'll slap this thing back together and throw the valve body on it real quick. We'll have to adjust the band. I might adjust the band first, just so I can make sure it all looks good, then throw the valve body on it. As far as band adjustments, when I tore this thing apart, I marked it and counted the turns. I was going to put it back exactly like it was, but the shift kit actually has band adjustment procedures. I don't know if that's how the same procedures that Ford originally had, or if that's, some that, B&M wants you to adjust it to their standard to, for performance or whatever. So we're going to follow the B&M guidelines, and I think it's just torque it to so many inch-pounds, I think, and then back it off like half turn or 3/4 or whatever. So I may just tell you what those are. I'll have to pull the instructions back out, but after I do it. But we're going to do that. So I'll do that first, then I'm going to put the shift linkage and stuff back on it. Then we will do the band adjustment, and then throw the valve body back on it. And then we'll be pretty much done at that point with the transmission. Because I need to look at the speedometer. I'm thinking that is a speedometer gear seal, so we'll throw that in there. We've already got a new modulator with a new O-ring there, and so that'll pretty much reseal the external leaking spots of the transmission. We've still got, this gasket here, but I don't think that's going to leak. And of course, gasket here, but I think we're good there. I don't think any of those would leak. All right, we're back together. I did throw a little blue Loctite on this nut here. Didn't do anything here because this has got a lock washer, so it should be good, but this one does not. So don't want that backing out. So blue Loctite should be good. And so now that O-ring feels nice and smooth in there. It fits under this arm here. And then of course we got the seal in this one. Made sure all of our shift levers, shift linkage, moves easily, and they're in the correct orientation. So, all right, band adjustment, then valve body. All right, band adjustment is done. We kind of ended up back where we were. You can see our mark, and so I guess their procedure was probably the same as ours. But if you're curious, there's the procedures. And so, with the jam nut off, I just torqued this adjustment bolt down to 120 inch-pounds. A little 5/16 12 point to go on there, and small little torque wrench. And so you got that torqued to 120 inch-pounds, and then back off an inch or 1.5 turns. So did that, and then you lock down your jam nut. So at the end of the threads, I put just a little bit of this Formagasket thread sealer, just to kind of help make sure that that is sealed. There is some kind of little seal in this nut, but I don't have a replacement for that, and it's not looking the best, so we just put a little bit of this on it. Should be fine. So now we are ready to drop the valve body on. When you do this, be real careful to line up your shift linkage and your kick down linkage to the bottom of the valve body, where they line up. So just be real careful, make sure all that's good, because you don't want to damage anything by tightening this down and these not be in the right spot. You could bend these or hurt the valve body. So just be real careful on that. So I'll bring y'all back in just a minute, and we'll be basically done with this thing. Kind of need to decide if I run the cork gasket that came with the kit, or if we just rerun our rubber gasket. I'm kind of leaning towards rubber gasket. I mean, this thing, reusing that one, it's got a couple thousand miles on it, so I think we can just reuse it. It looks fine. So let me do that real quick. All right, we're back together. I did torque everything down. Was it this one that's the long one? Yeah, I think that's the long one. Just remember, this one's long, and I think these two, if I remember right, are longer than these 6. And is it that one? I think it was that one. I don't know. It tells you in the instructions, so yeah. And that bolt right there is longer. So they're all torqued down. Let me turn my light on and I'll show you the linkage. You just got to make sure to get all that lined up just right. Okay, so you can see there's a little slot in this guy, and that lines up with this, and you can see we're engaging there. And then what's even harder to see is right there. So you've got that stud that sticks up, and that is a stop for this. So you got to get this lever in between that little piston or plunger or whatever that's sticking out. You can see it moving. And then that stud, you can actually see, since we reinstalled this, the little flat on that stud that had worn into it, that we now got a fresh spot on the stud. It doesn't matter, that stud originally was round. That was just a worn spot in it anyway. So that is engaging correctly, and our shifter I've run through. It's all seems working correctly. There's no binding in here. There's no, the detent part of it right up in there is working correctly. and the you know, parking pawl seems to be moving correctly. You know, it's all seems good. So again, in this, that's all that's got. So we are done. I'm going to put the pan on it. Just going to clean this surface up a little bit. Like I said, I think I'm going to reuse the pan. I did throw a new gasket on the filter. I reused my old filter because it only had a couple thousand miles on it. Screen looked good. I just cleaned it with some brake clean. It is just a screen. I didn't see any issue with it. Our kit came with a new pan gasket, or not it came with a new pan gasket and a new filter gasket. Didn't come with a new filter, but I used the new filter gasket with our old filter. I probably could have reused this old gasket too, but we just threw the new gasket on. I'm not crazy about cork pan gaskets. I prefer the rubber, so I think we're going to reuse our rubber gasket. I did buy another filter kit which has a gasket, but since we're using our old filter, I'm just gonna go and reuse the pan gasket instead of opening up that new kit. I don't think there's any issues with it. It's, like I said, a couple thousand miles on it. I need to check and see if I ordered a dipstick tube seal. I'm not sure if I did, so I need to check that, and if I didn't, I need to order that before we go put this thing back in, because I do want to replace that. So let me get the pan back on it, and I'll bring y'all back, and we'll be done. We'll be ready to put this thing back on the ground. Probably just leave it on the workbench, to be honest, until I'm ready to attach it to the engine. But hopefully, cross our fingers, we've got everything back together correctly, and we'll have a good shifting transmission, because it was good before, aside from this, which we didn't know about, which we've repaired. All right, we're back together with it. I did a quick little spritz touch up on the pan. I had painted the pan last time I had it off, and the paint was coming off. It's had brake cleaner on it, and it scooted around on the little dolly, you know, on the pan. So it had kind of taken a beating. It doesn't look the best. You can see where the paint had come off of it, but you know, whatever. It's under the car. We just did a quick to touch it up. So that's drying. Little tip on rubber gaskets and cork gaskets. You got two options on those. Put them on dry, or use something like this. Do not use RTV on rubber gaskets or cork. What happens is it's slippery, and so you start torquing these things down, and it just squishes those gaskets out and ends up splitting them. This stuff is super sticky, so if you want to put something on it, use something like this VersaChem Prime Seal number 3, Type 3 Aviation. This is some good stuff. Just be prepared that you're going to have a heck of a time cleaning it up if you have to go back into it. So brake clean doesn't really like to touch it. You know, it doesn't really, once this thing sets up, brake clean really doesn't get it like it does. And like pretty much brake clean will dissolve anything, but this stuff is some tough stuff. So I normally use it because it's real sticky and it helps those gaskets just stick. Like I said, either use something like this or put them on dry. That's your only options. I probably would have put it on dry if it weren't for already reusing this rubber gasket. But yeah, so I put that on both sides of it. Well, I put it on the transmission, then I put it on the pan and stuck the gasket. I mean, this stuff, you stick the gasket to it and it'll stay put. I mean, it's super sticky. And then I torqued the bolts down and just kind of, did a whole, I like to really take my time on these as far as torquing them down, just to try to make sure we've got a really good seal, go evenly. And then I go in steps on these. That is way overkill. I don't go in steps on like actual torque, but by feel. I run around and do all of them in a couple steps, just so, because if you start cranking down in one spot and it doesn't have some other force next to it kind of holding it, it will squish that gasket out. And so I like to do it in steps because it kind of gets even torque on that gasket, and that's how I've tried to make sure I don't get leaks on these things. Just a little tip. And again, I prefer the rubber over the cork. Over time, I feel like they hold up better. Cork, to me, seems like over time they all leak. But these rubber gaskets, if you do them correct, they seem to last pretty much forever until you open it up again. So, yeah, anyway. So I gotta let this stuff dry. Like I said, quick, sloppy, touch-up paint job. And yeah, it's all back together. So next step is to we got to put the we're gonna have to put front accessories on the engine. That's kind of our next step. Once we do that, we can kind of get the engine back on the hoist, get that plate, that separator plate that Ford uses, and then flex plate, and then we'll be ready to stab this thing on. So I think we're gonna wrap this one up here. You know, not a how-to video, just kind of showing you what I'm doing. And yeah, so thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below if you've used one of these B&M shift kits. Let me know what your thoughts are. I think there's probably some better ones out there after doing some reading, but I think the Transgo is the better one, but that's the one I had, so that's the one I used. So yeah, thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below, hit the like button, and subscribe for more.